So dear Thai, dear community, my name is Sister Trăng Mai Thon. I came from Vietnam originally, and I lived in Australia for a few years before I came to France to become a nun. And I live in New Hamlet, 26 kilometers away from the Upper Hamlet, to be almost precise. And where Brother Ben lives. I come to this retreat by chance because I actually replaced my sister who could not come here due to ill health. So I am very, very happy for that opportunity and to be here and practice with you and meet again the familiar faces that I met in Plum village, and also meet new faces. Is that okay? Like that? So I will share a little bit later on, but now I would like to hand this back to my brother. He will share with you about what we are going to share with you tonight.
I think I've got this one. So dear friends, Sister Mai Thon is another jewel in the Sangha. So you have, hope you have a chance to get to know her, and that she can come back to England many times. We'll now have 3 sounds of the bell to really officially begin this time together. So, once again, dear Thai, dear community, this is a presentation on a practice called Beginning Anew. And how many of you are familiar with this practice? Like, you know what it's about. So there's quite a few, and maybe the ones that it's totally like you don't know also. So it's good. Good. It's nice to have some beginner minds in the audience, fresh as well. And how many, this is another question, how many of you actually apply the practice? You practice it in some way with a friend or partner or in family? That's quite a lot. In Scotland, we had a lot of people putting their hand up that they'd heard of it, and only 2, I think, out of the 50, you know. So actually we're practicing it. But we had a lovely sharing from one Scottish lady who shared how she does with her husband. And this evening we have a volunteer couple, Andrew and Sally. And Sally, you met last night for the 5 mindfulness training presentation. I hadn't clicked that she's already been up on stage, so she's getting double exposure. So thank you. So they're prepared to, share with us the practice. So we will support them because it's quite an intimate thing to do, which I will explain. So beginning a new practice, actually Sister Maiton is going to share something after a little introduction. She's going to share the kind of structure of how we do it formally, and some experience as well, maybe her own experience of beginning anew. But I would just like to share with you that it's basically a practice for helping us in our relationships, for our relationships to stay fresh and healthy. But there's also like beginning anew with ourselves. So it also somewhat originates when you read the book that I mentioned this morning, Joyfully Together. The beginning anew practice sort of originates from the monastic practice of repentance. You know, when the monk or the nun feels that they need to share to the Sangha, you know, I've transgressed this precept or this fine manner, or I feel like, you know, I would like to begin anew and express some regret for this behavior or for getting angry or something. So in the and that's so part of the community life. It's the part of the monastic way that we have to keep ourselves on the right track, both as for our own practice and also for the community. So, but it's been very much developed in Plum Village to be a community practice, which we don't need to even, you know, transgress anything to practice beginning anew. It's about, so it's not got this repentance energy to it so much as I use the expression expressing regret, which is but it's, yeah, as I say, keeping the relationships in the community fresh. And so we also very much recommend this practice in schools, like among teachers, because often teachers share the same beautiful vision to help the children and to support the school, but they don't spend enough time to support each other as teachers. So we have a phrase, happy teachers change the world. So we want to, and we have a book with that title now, and so we also really recommend beginning a new practice among teachers and colleagues in any work environment, in fact. And so it's been applied in businesses, but we've particularly developed it to offer it and shared about, have a lot of experience with offering it for families to do, so spouse and couples, also parents with children. When we do in Plum Village, we have teenage programs like we have here, and children's program, and maybe on this retreat there's going to be beginning a new practice between parents and children. Yeah. This for this evening you will have a Andrew and Sally doing a beginning anew together. So the importance of the practice is, so it's both to, as I say, kind of keep us fresh in our way of being together, sharing information that the other person might not know, checking our perceptions is a big thing. Because we can go along thinking we know what the other person's thinking, and we may even think they're thinking something bad, and then we find out it was not like that. That happened, for instance, in the one I facilitated with teachers, and one teacher just had assumed that this other colleague had a problem with her, and it turned out there was nothing, and she was really moved when this other colleague shared such a beautiful thing about her. So it's basically it's so simple, it's really not rocket science. It's just about expressing appreciation and then maybe expressing regret. That's a basic communication in a relationship. Sounds simple. It's a bit like saying breathing in and breathing out is simple. Because the actual doing of it, it requires a lot of heart, a lot of concentration, a lot of presence, and really connecting and really being there for the other person. So it requires that presence of you to be able, like I mentioned the mantra, making yourself present. Yeah, I am here for you, and I know you are there. So, establishing our true presence is the prerequisite. So we also want to do, sometimes it can be very good to create the right conditions for that, the right space for that, and then sharing our appreciation for each other. And we do that formally, but we also can do it informally. It doesn't mean you practice beginning anew once a week that you can't say something nice in between, to your somebody you like. But sometimes people have shared that they would rather save, like they write down this thing that they want to appreciate, and they'd rather save it for that special time where they set aside, because with the extra concentration and intention, it's more powerful, and they really want to give them the gift of that, what they want to share in that space, rather than it be too, when it's informal, it can maybe not have as much transmission, as much power. Yeah. So, yeah. I think I'll hand over to Sister Maiton to share what we can share more about the.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, dear friends, when I was at home, I actually lived only with my family members. But when I came to Plum Village, I have to live with 69 other sisters. Approximately 69. And so, needless to say that the interaction between us is full on in every aspect of it, because we practice together, we work together, we play together, we study together, like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So Thai usually said that when we became a monastic, we got married to the whole Sangha. So at home you maybe get married to one partner, but for us we have to be with the whole Sangha. So also our Sangha is very multicultural. Different people from different backgrounds and different cultures and so on. So it's sometimes it is not easy. And so for me, this practice is something very crucial. Without this practice, I think I would find it very difficult to live in a community. Of course, we have other practices also, but this one is one of the a very important practice for me. And I will share with you my practice later on in like a study case. But before I share that, I would like to mention two things when we practice beginning anew. That is deep listening and loving speech. Because whether we, like Brother Ben mentioned earlier, we show our appreciation or we express our regret or whatever, we really need to come from here, from the heart, and I think you would probably agree with me that we only need to utter one word or one sentence that it can actually upset somebody, or it can make somebody happy. So it is very, very important that we practice loving speech when we, in this particular context, because and then we will need to listen also when people say something that we don't want to hear, or we think that is untrue about us. Then we really need to work on the foundation first. But I will go into detail a little bit later. Beginning a new practice in Plum Village actually has what we say 3 steps. And sometimes you will hear that some sisters or some brothers, or Sister Cheng Kong, actually she talk about 4 steps. But if you study Thai stitching, he mentioned 3 steps. So I'm going to go through. Yes, please. Thank you so much. I take advantage on Brother Ben's height, because I was thinking of the board, but I thought I couldn't reach so high. So thank you so much. So the first step we do in beginning anew is to water the flower. The practice of water. I'm a little bit difficult with which one to put first. Flower watering. The practice of flower watering is the practice of showing our appreciation to the other person, and to express our gratitude, to recognize their good qualities. And of course, people will know when we want to flatter them and when we actually feel that from our heart. So I think you do that casually with your friends during your daily life anyway, when they do something kind to us, something nice to us. When we appreciate something in them, we also already express this. So I think this practice will not be difficult for most of us. And in Plum Village, sometimes when somebody comes to you and they say something like, I know that you are a wonderful sister, this and that, and then you say, do you want me to do something for you? That kind of question in the back, But most of the time, the sisters, we are aware that there's a book about water. I don't know if you know that book. There's some research or some experiments about exposing water in different conditions, and then they freeze the water, and then they looked at the particle under the microscope, and they find out that if the water was exposed to something beautiful and peaceful, then the particle looks really beautiful. But if it's exposed to harsh words or pollution or something like that, then it really looks ugly, and the color is very black and so on. So I was told that this experiment actually hasn't quite been backed up by science. But I don't know much about this, so I'm not going to go deep into it. But our body is very much made of water. So I suppose that when we are exposed to, that makes sense to me, that when we are exposed to something beautiful and kind, somehow we are blooming as a flower. So, there's a word called puffing up, right? So when you say something nice to people, somehow they are taller, bigger. And when you say something not nice to people, they're shrinking a little bit, or shrinking significantly. And so I guess the practice of flower watering is a little bit like that. When we practice that with our beloved, it doesn't have to be when we need them to do something for us. It can be very genuine, very heartfelt, thankful from us when we see something nice in them. Thầy always reminded us that we should do it very concretely. We wouldn't say something, oh, you are a very nice person. That's very general. So we have to really observe and take note of what is nice and kind about her. Like the way you talk is really nice. Like you always bring goodness out from people, and so on and so forth. Something very concrete. And the second step of beginning anew is to express our regret. When we do something unskillful, when we say something a little bit harsh to people, and after that we think back and we realize that it may cause some hard feelings in other people, then we like to begin anew. But usually when we begin anew, before we say something a little bit heavy, we like to do flower watering. And so when we share with people what we regret about, sometimes people are not ready to receive it. Even though when we sincerely apologize and we acknowledge that, but anger is like a wheel, right? The wheel is rolling, and when you apologize to people, sometimes we cannot really expect that the wheel will just stop like this. The wheel will need to roll a little bit more. So we need to allow people time to come back to their peace and really accept our apologies. And if they in the end they still cannot forgive us, or they still keep it, sometimes it would come out in their speech, or one way or another. Then we know that we have done our bit, and we may rethink of the way we did it. Perhaps at that time we didn't do it sincerely enough. Because in my own experience, I found that when I feel like, okay, something happened, I need to go and apologize, but underneath I still have something going. I always like the image of the laptop. The laptop has when you click a software to bring it to the screen, it will manifest on the screen just the software, but underneath there many programs are still running. So we don't really know what program is still running in ourselves. We think on the top here, we think that, okay, I am sincere, but I want to apologize, but maybe there's something still running, like those programs still running. So if people are not open to receive it yet, there's a chance for us to look a little bit deeper to see if there's any hidden program still running in us that hindered us from sharing with them the best that we could. And I think this is a very important thing to do, because this practice of expressing regret is very important thing to do, because sometimes there are some little things and we just kind of let go, and then when we live together for a long time, it accumulates, and then one day it will just explode. And I observe that in myself. Sometimes there's little things that with the practice, slowly, when things happen, I don't take it too seriously anymore. But from the beginning, I suffer a lot. Some people say something, it touched something in me, and I didn't look inside myself, but I always blame them. And I usually fail to see that I actually contributed in it, and I didn't go to apologize because I blame them. It was not me. And the third step is to express our difficulties or express our hurt. We might think that people do something that hurts us, so we can find the moment to do this. But with this one, it is a little bit difficult, because if we don't handle it well, sometimes people will upset back. Like in the beginning, you are on the right, and then you do it like this, like that, and then with a lot of emotions, and then suddenly you turn around and the other person no longer want to talk to you. Have anybody kind of came through this situation before? I certainly did. Yeah. So in order to do this, we have to do a little bit of homework. We can't just go and, for example, today Brother Ben, perhaps I would like to share with you that 8 years ago you said something that upset me. But today this is an opportunity. May I begin anew with you? Something like that, you know. But my brother, he's so wonderful. He's an advanced practitioner, so he can accept it right away. But I think a lot of people would feel a little bit not ready. And so
what is it?
Sorry, this is just an example. But if you are open, I will. Yeah. So I may share with you this. A few months ago, nearly a year ago, because I live in a room with another 7 sisters. This is about the biggest room in New Hamlet, and then one day I did something that the other sister in the room, she didn't like it, and she's my elder sister. And after that, she stopped talking to me. And I make several attempts to talk to her, but she answered me politely. But after that, she didn't kind of talk to me like in return. So, and I knew that that it was not resolved. So I tried different ways. I tried to invite her to eat this or that, you know, and she ate. But after that, it was still the same. So we entered, and after that, I just, okay, I've tried, you know. So, okay, I will just leave it. I observed myself, and I could feel that I didn't have loving kindness in me enough, like a little bit agitated, because what I did for her, I thought it was for my goodness. I didn't intend to do ill or anything like that, but obviously the way I did was not nice enough or not kind, so it was not received by her. So we enter a kind of cold war, and we live in the same room, you know. So we walk in and out, and we just kind of look at somewhere else. And she's a very nice sister. She talked to other sisters and so on, but me. So I didn't know what to do. I remember Thai said, when you don't know what to do, you just do nothing. So I did nothing. I let it be like that. And but living in a community, I knew that I could not just do nothing. So I had to work on myself. So I took time to come back to practice the basic, walking, sitting, and coming back to cultivate joy in me. And I started looking into her. I remember Brother Ben the other day, he was talking about contemplation, the body in the body, the feelings in the feelings. You remember? So that's what I did. I had to come back and put me in her skin, and understand where she came from and so on. And then I cultivated my loving kindness for her, because I imagine if I were her, it would be difficult, because she just newly came and to join the community, and she had to adjust and so on and so forth. So I put myself in her. You say that to put in people's shoes, right? Or to put ourselves in people's skin, so that I could understand. In our practice, we say looking deeply, so we can see all aspects of the person, how she feels and so on, as her. And then I felt that I had enough loving kindness, and I felt that if she still could not be ready to receive my apologies, then I will still love her. I would not feel like before. Before I said, okay, I don't care if you don't accept that. It's your problem, you know. But then I felt like I was more ready, because I spent enough time and give enough space for that to happen in me. So I sat down and wrote her a love letter. What Thai say is a love letter. When we have difficulties with somebody, we write them a love letter. So I wrote her a love letter. In the letter, I expressed how much I appreciate her, watering flower, and I told her how much I felt close to her. That's why I was maybe taking it for granted. When we take people for granted, we are no longer mindful in our speech and in our way of acting. We are more casual. You agree with me? And sometimes that can cause a little bit of resentment in other people. And I guess that was my case, because I felt so close to her. So I told her that was the case, that I felt close to her and I took it for granted. That's why I was a bit careless in the way I shared with her what I wanted to say. And the beginning anew, it's very subtle, you know, because 3 steps when I share with you is kind of clear cut, but when you practice it, actually it's not clear cut at all. So I water her flowers, and then I share my regret, and I explain to her why, and then I water her a little bit more, and I share with her how much potential I see in her, and so on and so forth. So she went. That was the New Year, the New Year. So she went away somewhere to play. So I put it on her bed, and I was waiting to see the result, you know. And so the next day, nothing changed, the same, like still, you know. And I thought, oh dear, maybe it didn't work. But this time I was much more ready. I thought, okay, if this didn't work, fine, no problem. I would just let her be. And in my heart, there was no hard feeling, nothing. I just accept the situation totally. And so maybe nearly a week later, to my delight, I came back from somewhere at night time, and I saw a small envelope on my bedside table. And that was her letter. That was very beautiful. So, happy ending. But it's not like in the fairy tale, happily forever after. Because with her, actually after that, we developed a very, very beautiful sisterhood. And we were very close and everything. But actually, living in a community, if it's not that sister, there will be many other sisters, And actually, with myself, Brother Ben mentioned that we could begin anew with ourselves. And I think begin anew with ourselves is the most difficult thing. Because we are the most difficult judge, the most harsh judge toward ourselves. So that work is a long life work. And so I guess I hope that I give you a little bit of an idea how we do it. Yes, Brother Ben asked me to share with you. Actually, as he said before, there are 2 ways in Plum Village. We do it as a community, and we do it like in a formal way. And during our daily life, most of the time we do it informally, but as a community, and for some important matter, usually we do it in a formal way. So we set up a beautiful area or in the meditation hall for the whole community, and we put a vase of flower in the middle. And if we do it just 2 or 3 people, we have some candles, some flowers, and cozy corner somewhere. And in the community, we would, if we want to begin anew with somebody or with the community, we would bow and we stand up and we walk toward the vase of flowers, and we invite the vase of flowers to our place, and we sit down, and we can start sharing. And our words must carry the freshness of the flowers, and that is why we have the flowers there. With the presence of the flowers, we are reminded to be at our best. Like when you first met your partner, can you remember that moment? You presented your best, right? Your words were beautiful, your behavior were kind and beautiful. You went to the first date, you wore the beautiful clothes, and you make sure you had you had a shower and so on. Right? So I think we were so careful because we treasure that moment so much. But when we live together for a long time, somehow we forget that sort of thing. So, or we don't take it, we don't put the same energy and heart into it like the beginning. And so when we do beginning anew, we actually regenerate that kind of energy, the energy of respecting each other as when we first meet or met. So the vase of flowers will remind us that kind of energy, the freshness that we brought into our first meeting. And so we can begin to share with people, to water a few flowers in them, and then we share other things. But during our and then after you finish, you stand up and you bring the vase of flower back to the middle of the circle, and so other people can have their turn if they wish to. So I have just a few tips to share with you. From my own practice. So the first one I already shared with you about to do homework. When we want to begin anew, we need to prepare ourselves to come back and make sure that we calm ourselves down. We have space in here. We can utter loving words rather than coming and blame. And if we have some space in here, if the other person utter words that is not really what we want to hear, then we have enough space to embrace. And from my own experience, when I come to a beginning anew with emotion, with emotion and with the blaming attitude, or sometimes it's just venting out, like, okay, I just feel so agitated, so I just pour it on you. It will never work. Never work. So I suppose that's about all I like to share. I may miss out something that I hope my brother can help me to fill in. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Sister Maiton. It was a beautiful sharing. Yeah, really lovely and very complete. There's a couple of things I thought may be helpful. Just one of the things is that when we really meditate on the person, like Sister Maiton said, doing our homework, so we take time to meditate on the person we want to express. Like I know Andrew and Sally, they said they've been thinking about it, So it's not just that you show up and then hope that it can work, it can be okay, because you can go deep quickly and maybe, but it's such a good meditation to do, to think about that person that's in your life, so important to you, and really reflect on them. You can discover so many things by just, like Sister Maiton said, we take each other for granted, but that's because, why do we do that? Partly because, we maybe feel that we know already, and we're so busy, we have so many things to do. And the other person, we're supporting each other in our life. And to take the time and to really reflect deeply, we discover these flowers, and it brings us so much joy to see these things and to have these insights about the person that we say we love. And then to be able to share that with the person. Maybe they didn't have that insight about themselves. As Maiton said, Sister said, we're such good at being inner critics, we maybe don't see these good qualities in ourselves. So it can be a useful, we're borrowing the other person's insight. And we say, oh, really, you see that in me? And that waters that strength in us, something that we maybe hadn't seen, and we get told that it's there, and it's important. And then we think, well, okay, now I will strengthen that. Because it actually, with the mindfulness, we can choose to cultivate. I used to think that, somebody's kind, that's kind of they're born kind, somehow that's their condition, that's their karma, they're just a kind person. But the spiritual path for me was, the big revelation was discovering that it's about being a gardener and cultivating qualities, you know. If you choose to put your energy there, your attention there, that will grow. Yeah. So we're doing that for each other as well. We're watering each other's flowers in order to really also have those qualities come up more as well. It's why sometimes when we give somebody a spiritual name, like if the 5 mindfulness training, it's both reflecting what we see in the person, but their qualities, but also an encouragement to go in that direction. Yeah, so it's both about. The other thing about meditating on the person is particularly if you are having a difficulty with somebody, it allows you to get more space, more perspective on the person. So there's a way to illustrate this. Supposing you've got a sheet of paper and you put a black dot on that piece of paper, right? And then you put your eyes really close, the black dot basically takes up this much. And that's how we are with the person's difficulty, and it could even be something quite small, but we give it, that's how much space we give it, and so we don't see all of the good stuff around. So the meditation allows us to zoom out, see the person more as a whole, notice some good qualities around, and suddenly it's like the black dot is still there, we still have that difficulty, it's still the same thing there maybe, or maybe it might have also changed a bit, but the main point is that there's so much more space around it, so that when we and more perspective also, because we see these other good things. So when we express appreciation first, we're creating that space for ourselves, so that when we share the difficulty, it helps it not be so charged with this thing, and also this thing that Sister Maiton mentioned in her wonderful example of not going for the result, of expecting okay, you've accepted, but she was going to love her anyway. If you're in that, so that is the spirit of going into beginning anew like that. It's going to get good results, paradoxically, because you're not expecting the result, because you're not hinging things on the results. So that is, it's in the realm of unconditional love. Just to not put that expectation on what comes back, but just offer it freely. So then it's a real gift. Yeah? Because somehow, energetically, even like she said, it may not happen right away, because the fan can still be going, but somehow the sincerity, the reality that you were not having that demand behind it, that is transmitted, that freedom with which you shared that appreciation for them, or your regret, that it was really a free gift. And then when we share the difficulty, if we choose to, because often once you've gone through that, you maybe don't need to share it. You can maybe try, because actually what often happens when you go first, Sister Chanduk, Sister Annabelle likes to share it as unilateral disarmament. Like you don't wait for them to disarm, you express the regret first, right? But then often what happens with that sincerity is they naturally then clear the space, very, very much like the case I gave of the lady who was angry with her mother. Once she received the appreciation and the express of regret from her mother, even it was through me, but it cleared the way for her then to want to express regret very naturally. It took her by surprise. So that can happen, and then the difficulty, you didn't even need to share it because they expressed the regret, on that very point often. But if you do still need to, you get to the point now you want to share the difficulty, to be able to do that with freedom, to be able to do that with the spirit of, I'm only sharing this for the purpose of our relationship blooming more. I'm not sharing it to make you feel bad, to blame you, to get the answer that I'm right and you're wrong and you did an injustice. Because we really have got that strongly also, not just the inner critic, we also have the judge, the outer judge too. We want the gravel to come down, you know. We want to take it to the European Court of Human Rights. You know, I've had the injustice done to me. It can be, we're not going to be satisfied until, you know, we've got our pound of flesh, kind of, so to speak, to borrow from Shakespeare. But if we just can let that go and trust in the process of beginning anew, that there will be a healing that comes which will take away that childlike need for kind of, he did this, it's not fair, you know. We're not going to come out of that it's not fair loop unless we make the experience. And we have to have a bit of a leap of faith. We have to trust the process and try and also, so give it, and it makes it so much easier if you've done your homework, if you can really be okay. Supposing the worst case scenario happens, you know, I express the difficulty, and can I still then do what Sister Maiton did with her sister? Will I still love her? Can I say that it will be like that? And if you can somehow, you know, do the pilot test in your meditation, you know, a pre-run, and you can get to that place, or it's close to that place, then you may be ready to go for it. And you'll get there's bound to be a good result. It's already a good result, because what you've already done in preparation is the result, a lot of it. And then the rest is, you know, it's even you could say you didn't, you know, the communication is very important, but it's the essence behind the communication. So there's that to share, and when you share a difficulty, in the same, connected with what I just shared, to really own, this is my anger. You know, like Anne's anger, the book. It's not like there's one book where he's angry with his grandfather. It's not. The grandfather's lovely, right? In the book. The point is to say, this is my anger. The causes and conditions of what happened triggered this in me. Okay, so it may be that the person has done something very bad, okay? And then you have to go a bit deeper, look at the causes and conditions, and etc., and really try to understand, put yourself in the skin, like Sister Maiton was saying. But oftentimes, actually, as Sister Chanduk said, the Buddha said 100% of our perceptions are wrong. Even if they're 80% right, that will be lucky if they're 80% right. But there's always going to be something a bit. So checking perceptions, that's one thing. And also acknowledging, taking responsibility for what we're feeling. But at the same time communicating that so that the information is there for the other person to say, oh, I didn't know that situation triggers that feeling in you. They maybe just didn't realize what they were causing in you. Possibly because you were just walking off as if nothing had happened because of your pride, you know. I don't need you. The mantra we have is, darling, I suffer, please help. And it's the most difficult one to say because pride. You know, the tendency is, I don't need you. Is there something wrong, darling? No. What makes you think that? You know, that would be a kind of typical. Some of you seem to recognize that's yeah. What makes you think anything's wrong? There's nothing wrong. You know, so that's our pride, and we don't want to be vulnerable to saying actually, because I mean I know for myself, like if I'm in that tender place where I really am hurt and I feel like I express the difficulty, and then what I anticipate getting back is defensiveness and a counter-attack, I feel like I'm going to be doubly hurt, you know. If I can absolutely trust that the person is going to say, oh wow, I didn't realize that my action caused that, I will really try better in the future, then it'd be pretty easy to go to that person. But if I'm not anticipating that, then it's more difficult. So it would be natural. So it's understandable that we are nervous to do that, and yeah. So expressing a difficulty is to give the other person information, and hopefully, you know, not with this desire for the justice side. So that's one important thing. I think we can. What we often say is, like, for instance, in the community in Scotland where we've just been, a holy island, they have started integrating the beginning anew practice there. Even it's a Tibetan tradition, beginning anew, thanks to somebody with them who's been in Plum Village for quite a while. But they just do the expression of appreciation. So it's often really good to just start with that. If you're starting out, you know, to just stick to expressing appreciation. Maybe then you can go for the regrets, knowing that might open into difficult areas, but just to, yeah. But it's also up to you, you know. So that is. Yeah, I think that's enough for now. And then we maybe could have. You want to share something? Yeah, please. Yeah.
Since Brother Ben shared with you, I just remember something that I'd like to share with you also. You know, it's very so in this process, in this practice, we can be on the side of the person who needs to practice loving speech, or we could be the person who needs to practice deep listening. And because life is just so colorful, our role just warped, and our interactions is so complex that one moment we could be the one who need to say sorry. The next moment we can be the one who needs to express our hurt. You know what I mean? So it's really, to me, it's like when we are on the road, when we just don't expect the road could be empty, and then we just relax, and suddenly the car just right behind us somehow, or worse than that, the police car, as in my case sometimes. I thought I didn't stop at the sign and I was fine, but then they appear somewhere from nowhere, you know. So we have to be really ready through our daily practice, the daily practice of breathing and stopping and make use of our mindful steps. I really can't tell you how crucial they are. Like Thầy, he spent 60 years just to talk about the breathing. So there must be something in there that he has to spend that much time to talk about it. So, and something else I think is kind of good to mention here, because it helped me a lot. That one time I listened to a Dharma talk from a Venerable from Vietnam. And she said that she had cancer, you know, and she had an operation. And then when people came to visit her, she automatically put her hands on the wound to protect it, even though she knew that maybe nothing would happen, but somehow you never know, a skip, miss a step, somebody will fall into the wound. So in ourselves, we may have the wound that people don't know, and they accidentally fall into our wound. You know what I mean? So by saying something or by doing something, certainly it's just touch on that wound and we get hurt. And so in this practice, when I come through something that hurt me or whatever, I always think of that, because it helps me to reflect for the other person. Maybe she doesn't mean to do that. Maybe she doesn't mean to hurt me, or he doesn't mean to hurt me. He or she just happened to fall into my wound. Something like that. I hope that makes sense. So, thank you.
Just one last distinction that I find really helpful for me, and then we're going to ask Sally and Andrew to come, and that is, if you should, the way perception works, because I said we get wrong perceptions. It's based on, can be an old wound, it can be a childhood wound, that we're colouring the experience. So what's happening to us in the present gets coloured by our previous experience. But the way perception works is something happens, and we immediately give it a meaning based on our previous experience. And it happens like that. It's very quick. It's not kind of an automatic thing. And if we are aware that that is happening, and we know that that is the way it works, we have the opportunity to look back and say, separate the two things out. This is what happened, and this is what I made it mean. This is how I interpreted it, and to be able to distinguish between those two is an art. It takes time, because it's amazing how once you've worked out the difference, it's kind of interesting. You can see it quicker for somebody else than you can for yourself, because we mix it up all the time. We actually think what we made it mean is actually what happened, and so this is something we can try also to when we're doing our homework. What actually happened was this, and this is what I made it mean. So try that also when you're doing your homework. We'd now like to invite our dear couple, Andrew and Sally, to come up. Looks like we're going to... No, you can stay here. Yeah, perfect, yeah. So we'd like to invite you to turn your chairs a little bit and face each other. Want to have the flowers in front of you? Why not? Yeah. Let's make this professional. So, who is volunteering to go first? Sally, good. Wonderful. So please please begin. And just to say, you have us, your spiritual family here to support you in the concentration, and we're really here for you. And at the same time, please be to get you and Sally and Andrew to really connect and look to each other. You're not speaking to us. We're supporting you to speak to each other. So thank you.
I'll make it brief. Can I just start by saying that I'm so glad that we have this opportunity, because our lives are so busy at the moment. We've been married a long time, and for the first years we had a lot of time to talk to each other, and now sometimes we really don't, and the time that we do get, we're often very, very tired. So it's wonderful to stop. So I sat and thought, and I thought mainly about this week and things that I've appreciated this week. But there are themes that go right through our relationship and things that I appreciate about you all the time. So the first thing is your huge generosity. You drove all the way down from Scotland because you knew I was tired. And it was wonderful. Wonderful not to be driving. Really wonderful. I appreciate it so much because I know that you're tired too. And the other is, and also your generosity has come out in so many other ways this week. I know that sitting in front of lots of people is not your favourite thing to do. So I'm so proud that you volunteered to do this. Really proud. And you're so quick to say yes. And you've said yes a lot this week, and you always say yes. I can rely on you to say yes. And also because we've had time this week, I have a regret to voice, which is that I think I heard you speak more loudly in our Dharma sharing than I have done for a very long time. I think because the formality of the setting was to give space, so when you shared, I think I gave you more space than I have, and I feel sorry that I almost felt like I hadn't really seen you as deeply as I saw you in the Dharma sharing. As I don't, sometimes I think I maybe you're always there, but sometimes I don't see you. And I have just a small difficulty, which is actually what the brother was just saying, that you touched something which actually the sister about touching an open wound. It's a silly inconsequential thing, but it touches on something that's bigger for me, which is sometimes is a small thing that I ask, and then because it's a small thing, sometimes you don't change it, but it's the fact that I've asked, and it's a small thing which hurts me, and I find that hard. And because we've been sharing a room with our boys and we've been coming in late at night, I find it difficult when you make a lot of noise. But really, it's my hurt, and my hurt is there that of not being listened to. But if you can be just aware that it touches on that hurt, that is inconsequential in the huge mountain of gratitude I have for you.
I have to say, actually, the flowers here really make this. They really do help. They really do. Looking at the lovely fresh flowers, it really does make you speak freshly. I've got an awful lot of gratitude, but there's two two big ones, which are from this week, but also from many years. Which is, first of all, you organise the entire family, but you do it. With care, so everything is really thought out. We all have enough time and space to do what each of us needs, and it's not so much how well organised it is. It's and it's not even the fact that it works well. It's the fact that so much thought and care has gone into it. That's what I'm grateful for. Even if it didn't work, the fact that so much thought and care has gone into it is what I'm grateful for, and it does work. The other appreciation I wanted to say was that you laugh at me, which sounds like a funny thing to appreciate, but having known you for so long, I know you only laugh at things that you genuinely like or love. So I am grateful when you laugh at me. I am actually grateful. Expressing a regret. It's a big habit energy of mine to be rude in an offhand way. And being the one who's with me more than anyone else. You're the one who gets it more than anyone else. And I often thoughtlessly either respond in a rude way or respond in a kind of unthoughtful way, as if I haven't been listening. So I regret that. A concern, is that what we call it? Expressing a difficulty, is that when we light the tea lights, right, or light the fire, there's a box of matches, and you strike the match, light the firelighter or the candle, blow the match out and put it back in the box, and and eventually, and so so you've got 100 matches and one burnt out one, then you've got 98 matches and two burnt out ones, and then eventually you've got this entire box, and you think, do I really have to rifle through the whole box? Are there three more matches in here, or is there one, or should I just throw it away? But actually, you organise the big stuff. I love organising the small stuff, like knowing how many more matches we've got. So anyway, that's my admittedly small difficulty.
I think one sounded the bell to really let all of that sink in for the two of you and for us. It was very beautiful. So thank you to Sally and Andrew. Sister Maiton, you wanted to?
Actually, just briefly, sometimes when people begin anew, expressing a hurt or a difficulty, and we may have the urge to respond on the spot. And Thai actually advise us that we don't respond on the spot. We bring it to sit with it, and then we can respond another day, rather than responding on the spot, because it could be something that become a reaction rather than a deep response from the heart. So I thought I just mention it to you because it's quite important. Yeah, and obviously this practice could be done with colleague, with friends, with anybody at all in your life who are important to you, and sometimes not important. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Maiton, for that. And yeah, Thai has often said, and I think it's also worth just to add to that, to say, when we're listening to a difficulty, we may hear wrong perceptions, and it's okay, because our spirit of listening is to be. We should try to be with our breathing, and it's a spirit of compassion to allow giving the chance for the person to express, very much like we do in Dharma sharing. To not interrupt. We're giving them a chance to express, even if it's wrong perceptions. Yeah, and then, as Sister Maiton said, choosing a time later to respond, with loving speech later. So let's go back to Andrew and Sally and just say thank you so much. That's so lovely. And are you going to now make this a regular habit?
Yeah, the matches will get sorted, yeah. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. I'll consider the match issue and come back to you tomorrow. Yeah, I think, like I said at the beginning, the difficulty for us is finding a space in the week, but I think that's a bigger issue that we always see when we come away on retreat, is that there's something we need to do anyways to make more space in the week. So yes, it's something that we've practiced as a family, just to the flower watering. We quite often do just flower watering with the whole family. Yeah, I think it's something that we would benefit from, but we need to find a good space in the week rather than last thing at night.
The only thing that I wanted to add was when you were talking about reacting, that sometimes you get the sensation of doing a tennis return, and that's reacting. And I think that just like in Dharma sharing, the idea that whatever is said, you say it, and there it is, clonk, and it's been said, and that's it. You don't do anything. You leave it there, and you give it time. So I can certainly see a lot of personal experience. I can see that that's wise, not responding straight away.
So thank you so much. I think we've timed out for this evening. So maybe we have. And also the parents, I guess, have been making their way to pick up children already. What time is it, in fact? It's now 9 o'clock. Yes, so if we have 3 sounds of the bell, and just so this practice is something to learn more about. Sister Chan Kong is an expert in sharing on it, and she wrote a book, Beginning Anew, which you can go, and it's also, the practice is explained in the book Anger, among other books of Thai. So it comes into that book, for instance. So you can read more about it. Yeah, and it's even on our website. I think we have you can look into it there. So thank you for, and I hope you find a way to take this practice and put it into your relationships, and remember also, explore the idea of beginning anew with yourself as well, and watering your own flowers. Thank you.
Dear Thai Pháp Lai, dear Brother Ben, I just thought that a beginning anew usually would end with a hugging meditation. That would be nice. So perhaps if you like to practice that, it would not be complete to me. If you don't mind, if you like, please feel free to give each other a hug. Breathing in I acknowledge that you are in my life, and I really appreciate that.
You don't have to do that in the business world. Like if you don't, it's optional, right?